Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Groundwork Ohio's weekly morning meeting. My name is Caitlin Feldman, and I am the policy director here with Groundwork Ohio. I am filling in for Brittany Bolton this morning, who often is the face and the voice that you hear and see on the morning meetings, but she is on the road, so I'm happy to host today. We are in the midst of week 2 of the legislature's 2-week recess, and budget hearings will begin again soon in the Senate. We will see 3 weeks of budget hearings across 6 Senate standing committees. We do have some anticipated public testimony dates in the coming weeks where issues impacting young children and families will be heard. We have, again, anticipated public testimony the week of May 12th for Senate Health Committee and Senate Government Oversight and Reform Committee. The weeks of May 5th and May 14th, we anticipate public testimony in Senate Medicaid Committee and Senate Education Committee. And then finally, kind of buttoning things up in the Senate in Senate Finance Committee the week of May 26th. So we are happy to send out reminders as we get closer to those things and keep you in the loop as there are opportunities to engage in public testimony, but just to share that some of those dates are coming out and we're looking forward to keeping you all posted and engaged through the process. We are so thrilled today to be joined by Senator Beth Liston and Senator Mark Romanchuk, who are the primary sponsors of Senate Bill 67. And in just a moment, I'll turn it over to them to discuss more. But to give you a little bit of background information on our senators joining us today, I will read their brief bios. Senator Beth Liston serves the people of Senate District 16, which represents northern Franklin County, including Hilliard, Dublin, Worthington, Westerville, New Albany, Gahanna, and parts of the city of Columbus. She began her career in medicine, earning her MD and PhD at The Ohio State University. Senator Liston first ran for office in 2018 to bring a better understanding of the impact of policy on health and wellness to the Ohio General Assembly, and she's passionate about ensuring access to affordable, high-quality health care for everyone. Senator Liston believes in public education, economic opportunity for all Ohioans, and a state government that works for the people. Senator Liston is the ranking member on the Health and Medicaid committees and also serves on Agricultural and Natural Resources, Financial Institutions and Insurance, Rules and Reference, Small Business and Economic Opportunity, Ways and Means, and the Joint Medicaid Oversight Committee. Thank you so much, Senator Liston, for being here this morning. And we're also joined by Senator Mark Romanchuk, who serves the people of the 22nd Senate District, which includes Ashland, Medina, and Richland counties. And he previously served 4 terms in the Ohio House of Representatives. Senator Romanchuk has over 35 years of experience in small business, systems engineering, management, and community development. He's the owner and CEO of PR Machine Works, Inc., a contract manufacturer in the city of Ontario. And prior to his work at PR Machine Works, he worked at Hughes Aircraft Company in a diplomatic capacity to former Soviet Union in support of Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Also, he was based in Japan as a team leader and technical advisor to the U.S. Navy. Senator Romanchuk has been heavily involved in his community, particularly in local efforts to create jobs and workforce development. He's a member of the National Tooling and Machining Association and also serves on the Ashbrook Center Board. Senator Romanchuk is the co-founder and past president of the Regional Manufacturing Coalition and is a past chairman of the Richland Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. He's an active member of the Mansfield-Sertoma Club and National Federation of Independent Business and the Ohio Manufacturers Association. So with that, welcome to both of you. I will turn it over to you to share more about your bill and your priorities in the Senate. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having us here. I'm happy to start off and talk about House Bill 67, and then obviously turn it over to Senator Romanchuk. We are currently in the middle, as you know, of budget season, and so there's a lot in that space. But I think one of the things that we had been talking about doing was advocating for House Bill 6, excuse me, Senate Bill. I haven't switched my terminology over 67 and perhaps, adding it as an amendment into the budget. But obviously, the more people that understand it and know about it and can advocate for it, the better. So the Senate Bill 67 is a bill that corrects something that I think Ohio has the opportunity to, and other states, more than about half the states across the country have already done, which is a process that involves child support and for those families that receive Ohio Works First cash assistance. So, there were a lot of changes to and I'll put in quotes, the welfare program, but programs like Ohio Works First with temporary cash assistance for needy families in the 90s that were, I think a mixture of lots of different ideologies coming together, but the end result is there was an unfortunate prevailing thought that that there might be people that were having children simply to get additional money from the welfare system, which certainly I do not believe, but did result in this policy such that if you receive money from Ohio Works First, which means you're 50% or less of the poverty level, and are a single parent of children that are otherwise owed child support funds, you instead, and the kids, instead of receiving those child support funds, actually forfeit that money to the government. So if let's say you're a single mom with 2 kids, and then the children's fathers would otherwise give you $200 a month in cash assistance, in child support payments. If you then take the support that you're able to get through Ohio Works First, you would no longer be entitled to that $200. Any payment that the father made on behalf of the children for child support would be confiscated by the government, and 2/3 of that is sent to the federal government, and 1/3 of it is kept by the state. Now, the federal government, over a few years after they changed this in the 90s, recognized that this may not be the best situation and allowed states the opportunity to pass that money through instead of taking it from the families and the kids and let that money stay with the family. And as I said, about half the states have done that. The first couple of states that did studied it and looked at the impact, and they actually saw that there were fathers, typically fathers, although it could be any non-custodial parent, were more likely to make payments if they knew it were going to their kids rather than the government. That led to more engagement in their kids' lives. And then obviously those that received the child support payments were less likely to need additional benefits, like SNAP benefits from the government, et cetera, because they had more income that could be spent on the kids. So House Bill 67 proposes simply to let families keep that child support money and creates what's called a pass-through, but basically just says the money that is paid in child support, even for those that are receiving cash assistance from Ohio's Works First, would stay with the family. And that's there is an amount that the federal government put forth saying that if you keep it under this amount, you wouldn't owe us additional funds from not collecting the money. And that's $100 a month for the first child, up to $200 per family. And so that's what the bill does, up to the money that is allowed by the federal government. So I've introduced this. Senator Romanchuk and I have done that. And I would say that we have a little bit of back of the napkin numbers from last General Assembly when I spoke with ODJFS, and they estimated that it was about $12 million for about 12,000 families, so about $1,000 a family that would stay with the kids that are neediest. They're the ones that are less than 50% of the poverty level, and so for me, this is both makes sense, right? is letting more people keep their money instead of giving it to the government. And it's making sure our neediest kids have more support and, have that $12 million instead of sending it elsewhere. So that's what the bill does. And I'm hoping to, work with Senator Romanchuk and others to amend it into the budget. And if not, keep having hearings where people can talk about the importance of child support in their kids' lives. So, and I'll pause and see if Senator Romanchuk wants to add anything or correct any thoughts.
Well, thank you, Senator. And just for the audience to know that the Senator Liston deserves all the credit when it comes to this bill. I was not familiar with this crazy federal rule that basically confiscates child support payments if you're also receiving cash assistance through what we call the Ohio Works First program. That seemed counterintuitive to me, and I'm just glad Senator Liston discovered this, and she's really driving the bus on this with regard to trying to get this legislation passed. So I appreciate her advocacy, and I know she had a bill in the House that did not pass for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but I have when she told me the situation, I had a keen interest in helping as where I could, because it just seemed odd to me that we would confiscate the child support payments and then send that to the federal government. Or at least 2/3 of it are sent to the federal government. So I'm glad she's been advocating for this position change, and I hope we can get this done sooner than later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Romanchuk and Senator Liston. And Senator Liston, thank you so much for that kind of background history and really raising the importance of this issue and for the work that you've done to raise this to the top. I want to pause for a moment and see if anyone in the audience has any questions. You're welcome to drop them in the chat or to come off mute.
And while people think, I will say that I have not come across anyone who's against doing this, but rather I think the challenge is making sure people understand that this is how it currently exists. And then obviously, because it's not in the forefront, it takes, I think, a coalition of people to advocate and help educate. So my hope is that people on this call, have a clear understanding of it. So if you don't, please let me know, so that you're able to talk to people about it and explain what it does. And we can keep moving forward with it.
Yes, this is Deborah Held. I am the executive director of All-Star Academy as well as Whitehall. So we have 3 centers. And I had no knowledge of this, nor do my parents. So where can I get more detailed information as well as statistic information on this bill? Because I'm even trying, as you're speaking, I'm trying to find information on Google. But where can I get some detailed information on this so I can get it out to my parents?
Yeah, that's a great question. So truthfully, I became aware of it through an organization called just NCSL, the National Conference of State Legislatures, as I was reading about child support. And then from there, that organization has linked some of the studies. But I think that what I'd like to be able to say is I'll put something together that we can distribute, because I think that that may not be the most accessible resource for everyone to go to and for information, but it's, they have it's child support pass-through and disregard policies for public assistance recipients. And that's like where it starts on NCSL, and that's sort of the Google that you can do, and it'll show you other state policies. And then actually, one of the things I didn't specifically state is the disregard. So the bill then also has a clause that says that $100 and $200 that they're owed in child support up to that for families would not be counted towards income for the purposes of temporary cash assistance, so that it's not harmful. Because as we know, there isn't always a consistent collection pattern. I mean, kids don't always get that every month, so it's hard to rely on that. And we didn't want, and most states didn't want that money to then harm individuals that were applying for the Ohio Works First program. But yes, I would say the NCSL, child support pass-through and disregard policies for public assistance recipients is an article that kind of gives you some background and links, but I should, I think I'd be happy to get something together that we could distribute, to give to Groundworks and have, ask for your help in distributing to others.
Yes, that would be fantastic. I would really appreciate that. I think we all would.
So, absolutely.
Well, also, if I could dovetail on that, you could go to the legislature's website, legislature.ohio.gov, look up Senate Bill 67. You can do a search for Senate Bill 67, and you can read the exact language of the legislation, but also you could read both of our testimonies, our sponsored testimonies, that kind of give a overview of the bill and what the situation is. So you could also go there as well to get more information.
Thanks, Senator. I appreciate that.
Great question, Deborah. Thank you for that. There's another question in the chat from Eileen. She's asking, that money that gets paid into the state, where does that money currently go? What part of the budget will it impact? How to reconcile that Ohio budget will be fine without taking families' money? I think the question is really pointing to what is this going to change? Does the state kind of depend on this money coming in? Does it fund other programs? And how will that be impacted?
So,
do you want me to take that one, Senator? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I would say one of the real advantages of Senator Romanchuk being part of this bill is his in-depth knowledge and experience in the health and human services budgeting space. So I will let you take that, and then happy to add if I have anything else to say.
Yeah, so as part of the TANF funds that the state receives, and this is kind of similar to other programs, is we have, as a state, we have to do something called maintenance of effort. So it's basically the local share by the state that's required to receive a grant from the federal government. And as part of that maintenance of effort, that's what it's called, the money that is not sent back to the federal government, which is roughly, in this case, we think about $8 million is sent to the federal government. $4 million stays in the state, and that money is then used to meet our maintenance of effort. So we have about a $4 million hole that would be created in that line item, the state budget line item, that we'll have to fill through other means, because that $4 million will stay with the families, which in our opinion, and the senators, in my opinion, that's where it should stay. So because we're in the middle of a budget right now, we can make those changes and make sure that our maintenance of effort is still being met with the federal government, so we don't put at risk the entire block grant. So yes, it will matter for our budgeting, but I don't think it's a big deal. And simply because we're in the middle of a budget, we can make this adjustment.
Thank you, Senator, for that overview, and Eileen for that great question. Any other questions from the audience? Well, folks might be pondering, I do have one. I know you are both leaders in the Ohio General Assembly that have prioritized investments in programs that support children and families specifically. So I'm wondering if you could share some of your priorities this budget cycle. You mentioned amending this bill into the budget, Senator Liston. I'm just wondering if there are other priorities for kids and families that you have top of mind as House Bill 96 moves over to the Senate.
So I will say that the budget is big, and there'll be a lot of hearings. We're working our way through it. I can conceptually say that I'm certainly looking and focused on ensuring that people have access to healthcare. That's been a big focus of mine, and specifically for kids. There were changes in the House Medicaid that I'm concerned about, and the 0 to 3 continuous enrollment that we had previously put into our state's waiver, and I know that that's something that the House removed, and there's some other language that I have concerns will make it more difficult for people to access healthcare. So that's a focus. And I know Groundworks is spending a lot of effort looking at some of our childcare supports, and certainly I want to make sure that we are providing resources for those that need it and can benefit from the state investments and programs that allow high quality childcare services and allow them to, live their best and most productive lives in the workforce as well, while we ensure that kids are ready and prepared for school and education. So I don't know that I can yet say the priorities. There's a lot there, and we haven't yet had hearings, and I'm certainly having a ton of meetings, but I always look at Medicaid because that's the space that I guess, came into this General Assembly to really ensure that we had some as individuals that were really advocating for it. So, and I'll let Senator Romanchuk add and see where his thoughts are at so far.
Well, thank you, Senator. It's a somewhat of an unusual budget for us at the state level, because there is a lot of activity and a lot of comments being made at the federal level that may impact what we do here in the state. And Senator Liston and I have had conversations about this. So there's some uncertainty that's coming out of the federal government that I'm not sure we have to directly deal with, but it's in the back of our mind. And I say that we don't have to directly deal with it yet because we don't know if and what changes might come from the federal government. So, but it is in the back of our mind as we go through this budget cycle. In addition to, and dovetailing on what the senator just said, the House has made some changes to some programming that previous legislatures have already sort of given the green light to. So we have to understand why those changes were made in the House. I have yet to hear a whole lot of information about what they were thinking. So as we start the budget process in the Senate, and these hearings start in earnest next week, we'll start to flush out why the House made those changes and what they were thinking. So that will be part of the process that starts next week. Senator Liston and I will be on the two committees that will be hearing all of the testimony and trying to understand what the House was thinking. So yes, there's been some changes made in the House, which are a little bit different than what budgets we've seen in the past. Since I've been in the Senate, the House hasn't really made a whole lot of changes. But in this case, they have. In this budget cycle, they have. And then when you couple that with what we are hearing out of the federal government, and we're not sure what's going to happen or what's not, that just is sort of playing into this whole process. So it makes for an interesting budget cycle for us in the Senate to try and work through. But we'll figure out the best path forward. And I know with Senator Liston's help, I think we'll I hope pass a very good product out of the Senate.
Thank you both for your insights and for your passion for young kids and families. I know you have a lot of work ahead of you in the next few weeks, and we appreciate, again, your time today and for your ongoing mind toward kids and families in Ohio. I know we are just a few minutes away from the 10 o'clock hour, so I want to pause one more time and see if anybody in the audience has any final questions before we bring this meeting to a close.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to drop a link in the chat to some Head Start advocacy we have right now at the federal level.
Sure, Julie, thank you. No problem. That link is there in the chat for anyone who wants to grab it. Thank you again, Senator Liston and Senator Romanchuk. We deeply appreciate you. Thank you for everyone on this call for joining and for your thoughtful questions and listening ears. We will look forward to convening you again next Thursday morning for our morning meeting at 9:30. Thank you and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.